Hello, everyone. Happy Halloween. My name is Bernadette Desir. I'm your host, and today's special guest is Bola. How are you?
Thank you so much, Bernadette. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me to your show. I
Mhm.
am well. I'm very well. Thank
That's
you.
awesome. Thank you for coming to my show. This is my playground. I love it.
I love the sound of that.
So, Bola, where in the world are you?
I'm in London, UK at the moment.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's awesome. You were telling me what the weather was like there.
Yes, it is quite cold as usual. We have the sun in the heart. We have the sun
Mm.
in the heart, and that works quite well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. So, Bola, can you start by telling us who you are and what you do?
Yes, thank you, Bernadette. I am a Reiki medic practitioner, which is really Reiki energy healing. I'm
Mhm.
also an author. I've published my first book, and I am an emotional mastery coach. So,
Mm,
as a certified trauma recovery coach, I help my clients from all over the world
mm,
to really become more self aware, to be aware of that true self that we are, our true self that's within us, our God self
mm,
using a range of different skills. Because I also have a degree in psychology, so I use cognitive behavior therapy in my work, as well as a lot of spiritual practice, spiritual tools, because I really believe that there is this God self within us. And when we become aware of our God self, we can distinguish that God self from the ego self, which is where we have a lot of our different identities and personalities, and everything is as it needs to be, because this ego self is what we need to navigate this earth plane that we're in. So really my work is about helping my clients to really come to understand that ego self very well, which is what I have done. My journey has been understand it's ongoing, understanding the ego self and really coming to allow that God self to drive the day to day
mm,
using a range of spiritual tools and practices. And
mm.
that's what I do with my clients.
Oh, wow. I love that. Thank you for sharing. Can you take us back? Did you always wanted to do what you're doing right now as a profession?
Oh my God, I probably had 4 or 5 careers.
Mm.
No, I've always wanted to help others. I remember when I was 4 years old, getting a blackboard and having my brothers sit in front of me and teach. I've always wanted to teach, to just share what I know. So yes, but I started out really as a stammerer. I stammered a lot as a child. I couldn't get the words out. And I remember my father telling me, he was also a stammerer. And he said to me from a very young age, you need to calm down and breathe, and then you can talk. But that's really hard for an excited child. And when you're going through rejection, you're going through abandonment, feeling left out, feeling odd, the odd one out. Um, it's difficult to be calm and to breathe. But it's advice that I took on to this very day, to
Mm,
really calm down and breathe before I talk. So speaking has been something that I have had to learn to do um, very gradually.
mm,
Um, and it's taken me years to come to a place where I can really feel comfortable expressing my true self and not trying to please others. But you see, I think when we come into this earth plane, there's so many things that we've come to learn. And there are certain things that we feel are thrown at us, are not what we would prefer, but they are actually stepping stones to get us to be somewhere on that journey.
mhm,
And I think the more I have walked that journey, the more I have understood that every single thing is as it needs to be.
mm,
I can say that now in retrospect, looking back at my life and seeing how everything that has happened, being a stammerer, being someone who suffered from childhood sexual abuse, someone who lost her father and had to depend on, on my mother, who was having, single mother with 4 kids in a very patriarchal society, because I was brought up in Nigeria. So that was a very difficult childhood. But all that made me very resilient. It made me determined to understand, what is this world really about? What am I here for? And I happened to have a mother who was a librarian. So there were books in every room in the house. And when I turned 11, I read a book. I found a book on the shelves called Who Am I? It was titled Who Am I? And it was written by Ramana Maharshi. And it really set me up to understand that there are 2 selves. If you ask, who am I? There is the God self, then there's the ego self. So that's what kicked me off on this journey of understanding self from a very young age. And it sowed a seed in me. I didn't understand what I was reading fully. I did not know who Ramana Maharshi was at the time, but it sowed a seed and it began to germinate. That seed began to germinate, and I began to follow other readings. I've read so many books. Even as I speak now, I have 4 mentors and coaches that I've supported. It's ongoing. That investment in self is ongoing. It doesn't end. I think it ends when we take the last breath. So I started out with that degree of trauma, feeling left out, feeling odd, very limited self-worth, because that's what abuse, childhood sexual abuse does. Well, any kind of abuse as a child, physical abuse, it robs you of your self-worth. You really do not know who you are. And it's been a journey, because sometimes we learn what we want by experiencing what we don't want. So I have experienced a lot of what I did not want as a child, and I grew up right through my teens, right through my 20s, 30s, married, and I had my first marriage was for 12 years. I had my 2 boys from that. And it was love at first sight, and we just, I was 18, very young. And it became something that helped me to understand myself as a woman, because I grew up with a feminist mother. She was very much about wanting me to learn to read, and I was an A student. So the emphasis was on me being an academic, me being a career woman. And to this day, learning has never been difficult for me. I have 3 degrees. It's always been something that I find easy to do, but I did not know how to cook. And this was something that my first marriage, he taught me how to cook. Very open-minded and very understanding. He appreciated who I was and was not about to define me as a woman based on my ability to cook or my inability to cook. So that was interesting, because I got to understand that his family did not see things the same way as he did. Because you can imagine my mother-in-law, going, excuse me, what's going on here? Who is in the kitchen, So that was something that was quite traumatizing. My marriage was a learning block, because I had to come to define myself, regardless of what anybody else thought of me. You say it lasted for 12 years. And one of the things that was really tough for both of us was that our first son had special needs. And it was not something that we had planned. You know, I always say when you have a child with special needs, a disability, you are taking a plane ride and you think you're going to land in Japan, but you end up landing in, say,
Yeah.
Timbuktu, you know.
Mhm.
So it's not something you plan. And that shock never really got away. We never really got over it. So by the time my two boys were 3 and 2, we were divorced.
Mm.
And that was something. So I was a single mother. Now they are 20, 26 and 25. So, you know, it's years ago
Wow.
now.
Yeah.
But that journey of realizing that the marriage will not work.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't think any woman or any man who gets married really wants to end it. It's a big decision.
Yeah.
And when we end up being alone as single parents, it takes a lot. I remember realizing just a few months after we separated, after he left home, that I couldn't go to the front door and open the door when someone knocked on the door.
Mm.
So I could go out shopping, I could go to work, but if I'm home alone with the kids and someone knocks on the door, I couldn't go to the door. I was filled with fear and anxiety.
Mm.
And this is because it was the very first time being alone, because I went straight from being home with my parents to marriage. So I'd never really lived on my own before. So
Mm.
I had to learn to develop my own sense of safety. And
Mm.
this is something that I didn't have. I didn't realize that I was leaning on him quite a bit.
Mm.
So that divorce led to me developing my own sense of safety through different practices,
Mhm.
through therapy. I remember going to Tony Robbins 4 years in a row just to understand that the
Mhm.
mind has power over the body.
Yeah.
Because what Tony Robbins does is he lets you walk on hot coal while saying the words cool moss, cool moss. So you are believing that what you are stepping on is actually cool moss, even though it's hot coals. And you do not actually feel that heat.
Yeah.
So the mind, that I remember going, this was, probably 20 years ago or something. I can't remember
Oh,
now.
wow. Yeah.
Where, you know, I learned that you can actually have beliefs in your mind
Mhm.
that control your reality,
Mhm.
control how you behave, control what you feel.
Mhm.
And this is the foundation of my work to this day, the beliefs that I hold,
Mhm.
mindfulness. And it's about self-awareness, just
Mhm.
taking time to understand the thoughts, the beliefs. And this has been my journey. And I believe this, knowing now, there's lots of things have happened. I started out going into medical school, and then I left medical school and came here with my husband. And I did psychology, and I worked in the health service here in the UK. And I was a coach, I was an advocate, and I still advocate for parents who have children with special needs even now. And then I went into energy healing as a Reiki practitioner.
Mhm.
And now I'm a light language channeler, and I'm also an Akashic record reader. So my spiritual practice is becoming much more significant in my life. But I started out really in mental health and business. I also have a master's in business administration. So I've run my own business. I've run two businesses
Mhm.
before now. And I was a printer. I had a printing service. And then I had a dating agency.
Yeah.
And after that, I went back into mental health. And
Mhm.
now I run my two businesses, which is my soul space healing as a mental health practitioner and an energy healer, and
Mhm.
also as a legal advocate working with parents. So lots of different things over the years, but everything is fitting into the other.
Mhm.
Every single thing that I have done over the years has fed into who I am today.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. You have such a calm spirit and soul. I'm just tuned in listening to you sharing your story with such delicacy and gentleness and love, even though you've been through quite a bit. And I can tell that you've done so much healing. You're a powerhouse. People just don't mess with you. You know what you want. You've done the healing and you're helping others heal. And for that, I admire you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's ongoing. It's ongoing.
Mhm.
And you are a powerhouse. I can tell as well.
Oh, me?
It's yes, yes, yes. I
Oh,
love
thank
that.
you. Thank you so much. I don't even know which questions to ask you because I want to ask all of them at once, but I'm going to start there. Would you say that your family, either at the time or now, accepts what you do?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. My younger brother was very much into energy healing before I was.
Yeah.
And he introduced me to it. He said to me, because my first son didn't sleep much at night. My
Mm,
son, who has special needs, did not sleep much at night. And he said to me, well, you're trying all these different medications. Why don't you try this energy healing? There are no side effects to it. You will just put him to sleep. And I said, no, I resisted for a long time. And then I said, okay, out of desperation, I said to him, yes, let me try it. And my son slept through the night that very first day. And it was distance Reiki, sent from a distance.
yeah.
And that convinced me to help him to get Reiki all the time.
Mhm.
And then I didn't train up though for almost a decade after. I was still resisting it.
Yeah.
I think we have all this programming and conditioning that we over time as we allow
Mhm.
as we become more aware of what is really making a difference in my life, what is working for me,
Mhm.
as we become more and more honest with our own selves and become more fearless,
Yeah.
have more courage, because everybody's path is different.
Yeah.
And I then trained up in 2018 as a Reiki practitioner. And I remember saying to my mother was a theologist. She was a lay reader in church. And I remember saying to her, I'm now a Reiki practitioner. And she goes, what is that? And I said to her, well, this is energy healing. It's a healing modality from the Middle East, and it's now wildly practiced here. And I've just trained up for it. And I can give you a trial if you are ready for it. And
Mhm.
she's the kind of woman who was very open-minded. She had done her degrees here in the UK, back in the 60s. So she was very open-minded about these things. So she said, okay. And she also wanted to support me. My mother, we had a complicated relationship, but she always knew that I handled my business. And I think she definitely wanted to see what is she up to these days. So I said to her, okay, I'll send you Reiki for about 30 minutes. And I'll call you and you can tell me what it felt like. And I said to her, just tell me a time that I can send it when you'll be relaxing. And so we did that. And I called her about an hour after I'd sent it, and she was asleep. So my call woke her up.
Mm.
And she said to me, oh my God, that's the deepest sleep I've ever had. You know, so she knew that there was something in this.
Yeah.
And after that, we definitely, I always sent her Reiki because she did have some arthritis difficulties at the time. But yeah, I would say that my family are very open-minded. My mother is a warrior. you know,
Yeah.
she had to raise 4 kids. I mean, she's passed now. She passed in 2020. But she raised the 4 of us on her own. And that must have taken a lot of healing. I remember her going through menopause and telling me, and this was back in the 70s, in the 80s, I think 80s.
Mhm.
And she said, oh, I'm not going to do any of this, their HRT stuff. I'm just going to take vitamins. So she went to Togo, Republic of Togo, which was about 2 countries away from Nigeria. And she saw a practitioner there and went on herbal remedies.
Wow.
And that has helped me with my menopause. It kind of, because I knew that she didn't, she was fine without the traditional, which HRT is what is prescribed here, hormone replacement therapy is what is prescribed here in the UK when you go through menopause. So I have been able to go through that without go through menopause without having to do HRT because of that memory of being open-minded, knowing what works for you, being aware of my own body, and knowing that I am a unique sovereign being, and I must understand who I am and what my journey is. That is so key.
Yeah.
That is so key. So that's we're all individuals. We're all individuals in my family. Nobody can tell anybody what to do, so that's always been the case. But it has helped us to carve the successful lives that we all have as individuals. So I'm pleased about that. It's not the case for a lot of people. But there are many, many people who also have support, and that is key, because the family we have is not a coincidence. We are soul family, and there is a reason why we are all called together. They're either together to help you remember who you are, or together to help you remember who you are not. But there is a reason why we have the particular family members that we have. And I feel blessed to have my family to help me remember who I am.
Yeah, there's a reason.
Yes.
Obviously, I've been told that we chose this life and our families and everything, and my ego and human mind cannot understand some of the stuff I went through and why. And I'm okay now resting in the unknown and learning as I go. Yeah.
That's key.
Thank you. Can you tell us? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that uncertainty is something that allows us to crave after nothingness. Because when you are having to deal with uncertainty again and again and again, it allows you to release the need for certainty over time. When you realize how meaningless it is, how everything is changing anyway, there's nothing that stays the same. We are changing all the time. And when we are craving certainty, we end up in a place, if we are reflective enough, to rise above that need for certainty, we end up being comfortable with not knowing. And that is peace. That is peace.
Can you tell us, I've heard of light language in the Akashic records. How do you channel light language, or what is it for those who don't know?
I was attuned. Light language is a composite of sound. It's a galactic language. It's a language that goes beyond our planet. And it's a composite of sound, light, waves, symbols that contains information, healing, activation. And it is something that allows us to rise beyond the limitations within us and align to our true self. It's almost like taking medicine. It's a healing modality. There are many modalities that help us to heal and remember our true self. Light language is one of those modalities. For me, it is so simple. It's like Reiki, whereby you're just holding that allowance. You're holding an allowance and allowing that energy to work through you and heal you at DNA level, removing limitations. Because when we come to understand that we are a nervous system, We are just a bunch of nerves running through us. And those nerves are forming, pathways. And those pathways are leading to our behaviors, our habits. We can come to understand that the light language is activating and is activating us at DNA level, at atomic level, and allowing us to form new neural pathways that changes our behavior, changes our habits, changes our perspectives, because our perspective is key. If something happens, if two people are in a place and they experience the same thing, the way they will take, what they will take away depends on the perspective that they each have of that experience. So the experiences affect us differently depending on what we are thinking about. Yes. So having a modality that activates different neural systems within us is so powerful. And I was attuned to it, just as I was attuned to Reiki. I was attuned to connect to my higher self and allow my guides to communicate through me. So I have so many guides who kind of show me and tell me information. I mean, I remember being attacked on the expressway and having a gun pointed to my face and being asked to come out of the car. And a voice said to me, don't come out of the car. Whatever you do, stay in the car. And I actually stayed in the car, and everyone who came out of their cars that day got killed. And I happened to escape. I was also kidnapped at 13. And, I had a voice telling me what to do. So I've always had guides, and this is about self-awareness. And also the Akashic Records is really an energy library that holds all the information of our past lives. A lot of us have had infinite past lives. Thousands. This is not our first incarnation. And, it's not about one way of thinking. It's about just seeing what resonates with us, not having resistance, because sometimes we are conditioned in a particular way. And if it works for us, okay. But if it doesn't, then let's find something else. Be open-minded to try something else that may work. So this is I'm a very open-minded person, very, very open-minded. And Akashic Records is an attunement that I also received from Akashic Record Master Garrett Petlov. And that has been helpful for me to provide soul profiles for my clients through my energy work, and also to understand my own self, to understand my own higher self, my own past lives, and the gifts that I can bring into this lifetime from previous lifetimes. This is how powerful we actually are. Yeah. We are such powerful beings, I tell you. And the more I discover it, the more I discover the support that we have, the less dependent I am on serving, serving from a place of victimhood. Because it's that victim consciousness that we sometimes have, that we feel something is required of us. We can actually give from a place of power. We can give from a place of love. You can love, we can tap into that love within us. This is all about love. Akashic Records is all about love. Light language is all about love. Yeah. And it's about giving from a place of love. Yeah. Haven't filled your own cup. We can actually now just give. It's beautiful.
It is. Yeah. I think I'm slowly experiencing it. I've had many visions of past lives, and some are nice, some are not so nice. And it's when I first find out that I was not alone, I was not by myself, and I started to have visions, I wept. I cried and cried, and I said, thank you, Jesus. Because for so long, all my existence here until my recent spiritual awakening, I felt alone. And knowing that I'm not, I'm like, oh my gosh, what took this so long to happen for me to understand that I'm not alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. How do
There's a
you know?
difference
Yeah,
between,
yeah, go ahead.
I said, there's a difference between being alone and being lonely.
Mm,
Because sometimes you could be surrounded by people and still feel alone.
yes.
Um, and
Mm,
for me, for many years,
mm,
I could not be alone.
mm,
I would surround myself with people who were toxic for me because
mm,
I did not want to be on my own. I couldn't drive without being on the phone. I had 4 mobile phones,
yeah.
and I would be on the phone. I would be talking. I would not want to have a moment of silence.
Mm,
I was so afraid of silence.
mhm,
Um, and then a time came when I craved it. I am also an official host of Adyashanti gatherings here in the UK.
mm,
Adyashanti is a spiritual teacher. It's based in the US, and he has gatherings. So people who love his work, who
mm,
commune and they gather. We gather every month, and I run one of the official gatherings here in the UK.
mm.
And he was one of those who helped me to understand silence and stillness,
Wow.
and to not only embody it within my body, but to really enjoy it.
Mm,
So it's okay to be alone, but it's different from being lonely, and it's a journey.
mhm,
It's a
mhm.
journey.
Sorry, what's his name? Adeshanti?
Yeah, so it's Adyashanti. Adya Shanti.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because my daughter's name is Ashanti.
Oh, beautiful. That's
Yeah.
Ghanaian, isn't
Yes,
it?
it is. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank
Beautiful.
you. How do you know that you're hearing from your guides? Do you hear voices? Do you have visions through your
Yeah,
third eye?
yes. So intuition.
Okay.
I do have clear cognizance, so there's a knowing. There's
Mm,
a knowing. I just feel it within me. There's a vibration that I feel.
mhm.
I also hear very clear. I'm also clairaudient. I'm
Oh,
also clairvoyant, so I can also see visions.
mm,
Um, and clairsentience, I can sense. I can sense when my guides are around me. And this took practice. It took practice because I had all the doubts that, oh my goodness, I'm having all these evil people talking to me.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
you see, my dad passed when I was 11.
Mhm.
And I think I was hearing his voice. I could distinguish his voice.
Wow.
That helped me. I mean, if everybody has their journey, and I always say, just like when I'm walking down the street or I'm going on my day to day, I meet some people who are not exactly on my side.
Yeah.
I can always say, leave. I
Mm,
can always walk away. I can always declare that I do not want to be part of this.
mhm.
If I do sense, and I've never sensed it, but I always feel that if I do sense something that doesn't feel right, I'm just going to say, excuse me, I don't want to be part of this.
Yeah.
Just like I do in my day to day. We're not victims, you see.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
think by the time we claim our true power, we know that just like in the physical day to day, even in the spiritual world, there may well be spirits who are not necessarily aligned to light. They may be more aligned to shadow. I have no fear around that because just like I have no fear around walking to the market store, I know down that market store, there are all kinds of people I will meet, but I'm clear about what I want, the intention that we hold
Mhm, mhm,
and the knowledge that we have about how we can determine what we want and who we align to,
mhm,
that allows us to be free to express ourselves
mhm,
and to know that we can say no.
mm.
We can say no. If
Yeah.
something comes to me that I do not want, that self-awareness to be
Mm,
able to know that I do not want this. This
mhm,
is why I think self-awareness is key. This is what my book is about, Daily Soul Bites. It's
mm,
really about improving and increasing our self-awareness. Because once we know what we want and who we are able to say yes to what we want and no to what we don't want, whether it's in the physical world or in the spiritual world. And that is key.
Yeah, I love that. How did you harness your spiritual gifts in the beginning? I'm gonna learn from what you have to share, because I'm in the beginning. I have no clue. It's like popcorn. I hear sometimes, I see. I can't, I wouldn't be able to give someone a reading because I don't know what I'm doing, what I'm feeling, where it's coming from. I just feel stuff and I don't know.
Yeah, there is a need to observe,
Mm.
to slow down, to make time in the day to slow down and to observe the thoughts. We have over 90,000 thoughts going through our heads every single day. And if we do not slow down to understand, what does this thought say to me? How do I feel? Knowing that the thoughts lead to the feelings. The feelings we have don't just come up. They are coming up because of the beliefs that we're holding. And what are beliefs? They are repeated thoughts. By the time we hold a thought for more than 15 seconds, it becomes ingrained and imprint. And when we think about that thought again and again, it becomes a belief. That belief leads to feelings. Beginning to observe, it's called inner work. And it doesn't come easy, because what we are trying to do is understand the ego, which doesn't really want to be understood, because our spiritual gifts become more highlighted when we have an ego that has surrendered to the higher self. And you can only have the ego surrender when it feels safe. That ego has to feel understood. The thoughts, the beliefs, the sensations, the feelings, we have to come to understand that through observing, through meditation, through writing. Many of us don't really like meditating. I love meditating. I meditate twice a day. If I don't meditate for 3 days, I feel a difference.
Me too. Me too. I feel it. Yeah.
Things begin to go haywire around me. And I have to check it. I have to say, oh no, you need to come correct now. So if you don't like meditation, finding the modality that works for us is key. Trial and error, be very open-minded, and really not caring what somebody else has to say about a particular modality. Being really open-minded is key, because this is about not just our survival, but our thriving, our enjoying, our fulfillment. We can have heaven on earth if we begin to really focus on what feels good to us. So understanding the spiritual gifts has to come second to understanding the ego, and having that ego surrender to the spiritual higher self, because we are spirit beings. And even as we are as children, the spirit being is within us still, is always there. Oh, that's who we are. We're just embodying this body. And coming to understand this body and the mind, for me, was key. And I was, I guess, having that book from at 18 helped me, because it sowed a seed and I could easily grasp that, oh, this is ego. But it took me a long time. It's one thing to read something, it's another thing to really to really practice it, and to embody it and to breathe it, and to be able to teach it. Those are all different levels, but each one leads into the other. And it's not a straight line. It's like that. You know what you understand one level, and then you go back to understanding another level. And lots of different tools that help us to heal, because that ego is also traumatized.
Yeah.
And it's about healing that trauma, understanding it, parenting that, because the ego self has so many personalities, including the inner child, and really coming to understand and heal that inner child with love, parenting our own self with love, because it's not going to be about by force or through any kind of angst, the ego only surrenders to the higher self from a place of love and safety.
Yeah.
So that's part of what I support my clients to do, is to really come to that self-care, understanding the self, feeling safe, getting to a place where we feel seen. The body, the ego feels seen. The ego is feeling soothed.
Yeah.
The ego is feeling secure and safe. And then it becomes easier to surrender to that sense of being within us. If you feel that already, that sense of being, because there is a part of you that is just listening to me now without any concepts, without any thoughts. There are two parts of us at all times. There is that ego self, and then there is the higher self. That ego self has lots of thoughts going through what I'm wearing, what I'm saying, how it sounds. And it's, there's always a judgment about what is going on. And then there's the higher self that is just listening and observing without any thought. And when we come to understand and experience what is going on around us from that higher self, and we're not that avatar, because I always say the body is an avatar, and we sometimes think we are the avatar in sitting in a room, but we are actually the room. We're actually that room that the avatar is sitting in. And when we begin to perceive life from that place of the room, we are living as our spiritual self. And we do this already. We just don't know it. This is why self-awareness is key. There's so many things that we do that we enjoy. When we are enjoying life, when we are, everybody has things they love to do, their passion. My passion, like, believe it or not, now, is cooking.
Oh, it is. Oh, wow.
So interesting. But when I'm doing that now, I am in a place of passion. I'm enjoying myself. And when we are enjoying ourselves, the ego surrenders. And we are experiencing that activity through our higher self. It could be dancing, it could be art. So continue to do that. That is one of the things that I learned to do, to really follow my passion and observe my thoughts. Ask myself how I'm feeling. Release the judgment. Use whatever modality that is working for me. If something doesn't work, I drop it. I pick another one. I journaled for decades. I still journal once in a while. Doing the self-care. But it's all about parenting that self, the different selves, the mother, the daughter, the sister, the businesswoman, the coach, those different aspects of us, which are very different personalities. Supporting and loving every different aspect and knowing how each of those aspects fit into the whole. And loving and accepting that whole. And that whole becomes much easier. It becomes easier for that whole to surrender to the higher self. And we can then receive guidance from our spirit guides, depending on the intuitive method that is most resonant for us, whether we hear it or we see it or we feel it or we know it. We can begin to develop, and this is all practice. It's, we learn and we get deeper and deeper steeped into that intuitive way of experiencing life.
Wow. I love everything you're sharing. I'm just soaking it all in. Thank you so much. I have two questions for you as we wrap up. The first one is, what is the meaning of life for you?
Love. Love.
I love that.
This is, if you'd asked me this 20 years ago, I probably would have said anger, revenge. And not letting anybody step on me or take advantage of me, or competition, or knowing there are all kinds of conditioning that we consider life to be. But for me, I cannot afford anything other than love anymore.
Yeah.
It is for my own benefit. If I find myself trying to give anything other than love, I stop quickly. I pause and I check myself, and I try to come from a place of love.
Beautifully said. Last question. Where can my listeners find you and support your work?
I am on Soul Space Healing, www, my website, www.soulspacehealing.com. And I'm also on Facebook as Bola Abimbola and on YouTube as Bola Abimbola Official. But the best place to get me is my website, www.soulspacehealing.com.
Well, Bola, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, for sharing your journey, and for everything that you're doing for healing the planet. Thank you. And those in the planet, which is us, beautiful vessels. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Bernadette. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
You're
And
welcome.
well done as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.